All right. This is Etali Primal Conqueror and Etali Primal Sickness. They're both the same card. That's just like they transform. You've seen this card before. It has Trample. When it enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until you hit a non-land. You can cast any of them or those non-lands without paying their mana costs, and then you can transform them for 10 mana. Activate only as a sorcery. It becomes Trample Indestructible Primal Sickness. Whenever Primal Sickness deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters. Goldhound, First Strike Menace, acts as a treasure token. This card is excellent. Definitely play it in a lot of lists where you want like stuff out early. Lightning Bolt, deals 3 damage to any target. Excellent. Ragavan, whenever he deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, then you swipe the top card of your deck, or their deck, and you may play it until the end of turn. Delighted Halfling, add 1 colorless. Add 1 mana any color, spend it to only cast legendaries, and then they can't be countered. Excellent. Elvish Mystic adds a green. Gilded Goose adds a mana of any color as long as you sacrifice a food token with it. It can create food tokens. Llanowar Elves, add 1 green. Moria Marauder. I felt like playing this. Double Strike, when a goblin or orc you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that this turn. This guy's already a draw 2 by himself. But if you really play it around him, he can actually be quite good. Obliterating Bolt deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would perish, you exile it instead. Back to Nature, pop all enchantments. Bite down. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Cosmic Hunger is the same thing as Bite Down, except that it includes battles. Elysion Caryatid adds 1 mana of any color. If you have a power 4 or greater, adds 2 instead. Lotus Cobra, I rarely play this card, but when landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield, you can pick a mana and float a mana of any color. Master's Rebuke, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power. It's Bite Down. Paradise Druid taps for any color, has hexproof as long as it's untapped. Ram Through deals damage equal to creatures if they have Trample. All that excess damage gets dealt to the controller of that creature instead. So if you like hit something with like a 7 power Trample creature versus 1 to 5 damage would go through. Bard class, legendary creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter. You can level it up, and then the legendary spells cost 1 lead and 1 green less. That only affects colored mana. And whenever you cast a legendary spell, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. When you level it up to level 3, this card's all right. It's kind of a bit of value. Domri's Ambush, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. That creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Card like that effect used to be kind of rare because it's rare on Domri's Ambush, but now we get it all over the place and at instant speed. So Domri's Ambush is really not that special anymore. The 1/1 counter is kind of nice though. A little bit of extra synergies there. Brass's Tunnel's Grinder. When it enters the battlefield, you discard any number of cards, then draw up that many cards plus 1. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, put a boar counter on it. Then if there's 4 more boar counters, you transform it into Takutin the Searing Lift, add red. Whenever you cast a permanent spell by using mana produced by Takutin the Searing Rift, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. This card's excellent. Brotherhood's End. Deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, or pop all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. This card's just good. Excellent board wipe. You can hit creatures and planeswalkers, or it can wipe out a bunch of mini artifacts. Demon Bolt deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and then you can foretell it, so you can kind of circumvent the cost. You pay 2 and then exile it, and then you can pay it for 1 red later. Or play it for 1 red later, excuse me. Groose Uprising. When it enters battlefield, if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, you draw a card. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, you also draw a card, and all your creatures gain trample. Gwenna Izagaya, you can tap him for 2, and you can only use it to cast creatures or use activated abilities of creatures. And when you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, he gains a 1/1 counter and untaps himself. Kalini Ambush, target creature fights target creature you don't control, and then it's a tapped green source. This card's pretty good. Out of the MDFCs, it's removal. Tribute to the World Tea. This card can be a little bit hard to cast as it is 3 green. Whenever a creature enters battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, you put 2/1/1 counters on it. This card is excellent. Gets you a lot of value, especially once you get like 2 of them out in like a constructed game where you're playing like 60 card format where you can play them as up to a 4 of. That's when it starts to be really excellent. This card is just a boatload of value, but it is hard to cast because it is 3 green. And it's not super great unless you get it out early. Domri, Anarch of Bolas. Creatures you control gain 1 attack. That's his passive ability. You can add a green or a red. Creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. And then he can cause creatures to fight each other. Sevla, Ice Shaper. You can pay 3. Create a Manalith. An Icy Manalith. Add 1 mana of any color. And you can pay 8. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest of your bottom of the library in a random order. This card's very tame. It's good, like, kitchen table magic commander. It's nothing too crazy. Obviously, you can make the deck as crazy as you want to, but yeah, at least your commander will be remotely fair. Because it can eventually get you a bunch of mana rocks. Defiler of Instinct has first strike. You can Phyrexianize red mana with it. And then whenever you cast a red permanent spell, Defiler Instinct deals 1 damage to any target. This card's excellent, especially when you start amplifying the damage that he's dealing. With, like, triplification effects or, like, oh, if you deal non-combat damage, add 2 damage to that. There's a lot of red cards that do that. Nahab, Dreadhorde Champion, has Trample. When he deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you may discard any number of cards. If you do, draw that many cards and add that much red until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Because usually if you're floating mana and you change phases, it empties from your mana pool. Storm's Wrath deals 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Just a good standard red board wipe. Defense of the Heart at the beginning of your upkeep. If your opponent has 3 or more creatures, you sacrifice Defense of the Heart. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards. Put those onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This card's just unfair. There's so many, like literally if you crack Defense of the Heart, you can win the game on the spot. Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 bear creature token. Then pop all artifacts and enchantments. And Garrus Armor Killer has Mutate, Reach, Trample. When he mutates, you pop an artifact or an enchantment. And remember, Mutate's basically like the creature acts like an aura spell for all intents and purposes in this list. Domri Chaosbringer, you can add red or green, and if you cast a creature spell with that, it gains Riot. It's his -3 to look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can grab from them up to 2 creatures, put them in your hand. His -8, you get these 4/4 token beasts that are tramples. You get those at the end of each end step. So his ult's actually pretty powerful. It can flood the board quite quickly. And you actually get some pretty decent sized bodies. 4/4 tramples, nothing to trifle with. Grand Warhorde Radda has haste, and whenever one or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combinations of red and or green. Till end of turn, you don't lose this mana as the steps and phases end. So you can float a lot of mana with this. Burn down the house. You either deal 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, or you create 3 1/1 devil tokens that whenever they perish, they deal 1 damage to any target. Clash of Titans. Target creature fights another target creature. This can actually cause 2 of your opponent's creatures to fight each other, which is excellent. That's why I really like this card. It's 5 mana, but it's one of the few ways that red can deal with like really huge creatures. Because once they start getting about 5 or more than 5 toughness, they can be quite hard for red to deal with. Goldspan Dragon has flying and haste. Whenever it attacks or becomes target of a spell, you create a treasure token. He doubles the mana output of treasures. Eharg the Raised Board has Trample. Whenever he attacks, you may put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield already attacking, and then you bounce it back into your hand at the end step. And then whenever he perishes or is put into exile, you can take him from that zone and put him back into your deck 3rd from the top. Remember with his effect that they're already attacking. So you don't get attack triggers with those because they come out already attacking. So, like if they're like, oh, if I attack, do X, and that doesn't happen. It's mostly good for ETBs. Defiler of Vigor has Trample. He can Phyrexianize green mana, so that means you can pay 2 life for a green mana pip. You can only do that for up to 1 green mana pip, though. Same with the other Defiler. And then Whenever you cast a green permanent spell, you put 1/1 counters on your entire team. Luck Up Bound and Ruin has completed. You can add 2 mana, 1 red and 1 green. Spend this to only cast creatures or activate the abilities of creatures. He can make the 3/3 with Toxic 1 as his -1. His -4 is you target a creature you control, and it deals damage equal to any number of targeted creatures and planeswalkers as you activated this ability. So even if the creature gets removed, you still do the damage. You target something big that's like an 8/8 or 8 power, 9 power, 10 power, and you spread a bunch of damage around. It's kind of like a pseudo board wipe. With big enough creatures, it is a board wipe, so that's why we play this guy. I love this card, honestly. I think Luck Up Bound to Ruin is sweet. Quartzwood Crasher has Trample. Whenever one or more creatures you control with Trample deals combat damage to a player, you create an XX green dinosaur creature token with Trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. So you can make like a really big dumb token with this. Big dumb 12/12, 13/13, especially if you're playing like a dedicated trample deck. I adore this card. This card's sweet. He's just a big bashy boy that poops you out more big bashy boys, and you just have fun with it. So he's an excellent card. I'll probably play him in Historic sometime as a 4/of. Haphazard Bombardment. When it enters battlefield, choose 4 non-enchantment permanents on your opponent's side of the board. They get aim counters on them. And at the end of the turn, you randomly take out one of the permanents with an aim counter on it until there's only 1 aim counter left on their side of the board. Morag Fury of Akum. Each creature that you attack that turn, or each creature gets 1 attack for each time it attacked. And then landfall, you play a land. His landfall ability is you play a land and you get another combat. So, like, you play a land, untap all your creatures, and you get an additional combat. Make sure to play your lands on main phase 2 with this guy, because you got to swing first. If you get the additional combat before you attack, you lose it. Sunbird's Invocation, wherever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal X cards from your library where X is that spell's mana value, and you can play one of those cards that is a non-land. You can cast a card, so you can't play lands, but you can cast a non-land card from among those with X or less, where X is that spell's mana value. So if you play a 6-drop, you go 6 deep, you can pay anything that's 6 or less mana. Gruff Triplets has Trample. When he enters battlefield, you make 3 or 2 extra Gruff Triplets that are tokens of him. So 2 3/3s that are copies of it. And then when they die, you put a number of 1/1 counters equal to the power of each creature you control named Gruff Triplets. So basically you get 3 3/3s when you first play them. One of them perishes, then you got 2 6/6s. One of them perishes, then you got 1 12/12. So the guy's just boatloads of value. Kogla Titan Ape, when he enters battlefield, he can fight a target creature an opponent controls, or you don't control. Whenever Kogla attacks, you can pop up to 1 artifact or enchantment, and then you can return target human back to your hand, and Kogla gains indestructible until end of turn. So he kind of like rescues the human, because he's King Kong. Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider, has Trample and Haste. Whenever you would put counters on things, you put double counters on things. Whenever you put half, or whenever your opponent puts counters on things, they put half as many. Star of Extinction, pop target land. Star of Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature in each planeswalker. Very awesome red board wipe. That's like one of the few red spells that can deal with something that's really big. Godzilla Doom Inevitable. This is Yadara Wandering Monster. Has Trample and Haste, cycling. And if you cycle him 4 times, you can cast him for free. He's just there because he's a Trample 8/8. So that's why he's there. Titan of Industry has Reach Trample. When he enters battlefield, choose 1. Pop target artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5 life. You can create a 4/4 green elephant or rhino creature token, and he can put shield counters on things. Tyrannorex is a haste trample 8/8 with ward 4 and toxic 4. Zephyro Hunger Dominus has reach. At the beginning of each combat, creatures you control double their toughness and power until end of turn, and you can sacrifice 2 other creatures and pay the mana cost, and he gets an indestructible counter. Copper Oath Crusher. Yeah, sacrifice 2 other creatures. You can put an indestructible counter onto him. So, and Copper Oath Crusher is just a trample hexproof 8/8. It's actually got hexproof. So he's kind of like, he's like a poor man's Carnage Tyrant. Because he is only an uncommon. You can't see it here, but this guy's an uncommon. He's pretty cool. I feel like he's a really good kitchen table curve topper. Because he's still pretty good. I mean, an 8/8 for 8's all right, and then he's got trample and hexproof. Hexproof means he can't be targeted at all. Like, think of ward, except hexproof is better. Because hexproof, like, doesn't allow it to happen in the first place. There's no getting around it. Ward is the weakened version of hexproof. Crater of Behemoth has haste. When he enters the battlefield, you count all your creatures, and each creature gets XX. Whereas the amount of creatures you counted. And they gain trample too. Enraged Forerunners has vigilance, trample, and haste, and he gives each creature you have 2 attack and 2 defense and vigilance and trample until end of turn. Vorinclex Voice of Hunger has trample. Whenever you tap lands for mana, you get twice as much mana. Whenever your opponents tap lands for mana, they tap down for an additional turn. Great Henge costs X less cast, where the X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You can gain 2 life and tap it for 2 green. And then whenever a non-token creature you control enters the battlefield, you put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. By force, it just pops target X artifacts, where X is whatever you put into it. Shatterskull Smashing is a tapped red sorcerer. It can deal damage to 2 creatures. It'll deal damage, and it deals double damage if you pay 6 or more. All right, the next card is Morrowind's Kindred. It's an X spell where you conjure a card named Morrowind the Murderer, and X cards named Llanowar Elves onto the battlefield. So X is how many you conjured. This is my new transition in Final Cut. I got the trial for it for now. I'm going to try and eventually buy it in life. But here we go. All right, this match is up against the Mercier 1987. They're playing Shulane Teller of Tales. It's a green, blue, and white deck, which means it's banned. This one was a win. You saw it in the transition. So, like I said, this deck is, again, this is a really powerful deck. It's Etali Primal Conqueror. Like, this card's just dumb. This deck is very generic, very cookie cutter. You've seen this deck before. Go ahead and plop down Anarchic Bolas. Go ahead and just generate a mana just to generate it. And to get him a loyalty counter. That's mainly why we did that. Luckily, he hits the battlefield, so we don't have to really worry too much about counter spells anymore. Usually, these decks don't really play counter spells, though. Shulane. They will. I mean, it all depends on the player, but usually these decks try to be proactive, because I've made a few Shulane lists. He's pretty crazy once he starts going off, but every time I've made the list with him, I just couldn't quite get there. So, go ahead and play. Grab a green source, because we're not locked into creatures or nothing when we use that mana. It's just mana. You can use it for whatever. It's just creatures happen to not be counterable that turn too. Like I said, Anarchic Bolas is a good card. He's actually a pretty good commander too, because he only comes out for 3 mana, so he's already kind of pretty easy. He's easy to cast. You can play him for 5 mana and not feel too bad about it. World Tree triggers, becomes a 4/3. World Tree triggers, becomes a 4/3. Remember, with the Elysian Caryatid, it can count itself, so it's got 4 powers and now it taps for 2 mana. Thing with Tribute to the World Tree, though, you gotta remember, it is 3 green mana pips, so it's very hard to cast in multicolored decks. And I've played that in Constructed, which is 60 card format, 4 cards each. It's not really that great of a card if you don't get it out early. They play Hornet Queen here, which spawns them a bunch of bees. We gotta dance for our bees. We go ahead and generate a red, because what Hornet Queen is she's a 2/2. Except, she's a 2/2, and she spawns 4 flying Death Touch bees. Right here, we have to board wipe because of the bees. You have fought the bees and won. Hornet Queen's an old card though. I used to play Hornet Queen as a kid. It still holds up nowadays. I mean, 4 bodies off of 1 card, and they're all death touchers, so they trade with whatever. Or actually 5 bodies, because you get 4 bees and then you get the 2/2, which is the queen. So it's actually a pretty excellent card yet nowadays. It still holds up. It's very old, because I remember Hornet Queen back when I was like 12 years old or something like that. It's a very old card. So we go ahead and we're sitting here thinking. We go ahead and play Grand Warlord Radda. Draw 2 cards because its power is greater than 3. Put the 1/1 counter on it, draw a card. Because it ends up with more than 3 power as the time the effect triggers. So we opt not to swing because I want to kind of keep our Dom Reel around. The whole counter spell protection and the antheming of the 1 attack, and he's a removal piece too. They go ahead and play Faithful Absence here, popping our Warlord Radda, giving us a clue token that we can pay 2 mana and sacrifice it and draw a card. They go ahead and play Blade Spricer here. It's a 1/1. It makes a 3/3 golem, and it gives like golems first strike. It's like an anthem for golems, weirdly enough. They opt not to swing here, which is kind of weird. End up drawing 2 lands. We play 1 of them because it doesn't. We're good on colors, so it doesn't really matter when like colors come down now. Go ahead and play Morag, Fury of Akum. He's our extra combat enabler. Remember, with him, you want to play your lands on main phase 2. Draw 2 cards. Like I said, because Gruul, that's the thing with Gruul, you got like, I mean, you're playing green, which green is the best color in the game. And red is like, it's actually the worst color, but when a red card is like crazy, it's pretty freaking crazy. And the thing about Gruul is you have like all these enchantments and stuff that like accrue you just boatloads of value between green and red. Like red, we got like Stunbird's Invocation. There's a few other things. There's like another red card that's basically like Stunbird's Invocation. There's a lot of them in red that's for spells, like instants and sorceries is what I'm talking about. Because a spell in Magic is anything that goes on the stack that isn't a land. Because lands don't go on the stack, they just get played from the hand. So technically, if you see the word spell in Magic, it's technically any card type that's currently on the stack. They both send you Who Endures. Our Great Henge. We go ahead and both send you Who Endures their Wormcoil Engine. Again, Wormcoil Engine, he's fallen off pretty hard nowadays. He's still pretty good in these like 3 or 4 color decks, just because he is colorless. So right when you hit 6 mana, you can just play him regardless. That's about the only good thing about him nowadays, though, is his ease of castability. Otherwise, he's not really that exciting. Go ahead and grab a green here. We're definitely more ahead on red, so we opt to grab a green. You want to make sure you balance out your colors. All right, it's our turn. We go ahead and play Stunbirds. We're thinking about playing Stunbirds. Yeah, we play Stunbirds here. Go ahead and add the green or red. I have to add a red. We Domri's Ambush. Give him the 1/1 counter. Lightning Bolt. Luckily, we hit Lightning Bolt there because we can cast it. Anyways, we get rid of the Death Touch Worm because that's what we're worried about. Morag swings. Beats down the 1/1. Then swing again. They gain an additional attack because they attack again. Chunk them for 15. They go. That's the thing with Gruul too, is you get like, it's usually like big, bashy, combat damage-based magic, which Gruul's an expert at because you get a lot of like very aggressively like oriented cards for combat. Especially if you like see a green and red card, it's usually like mana manipulation, some sort of like you get a lot of reanimator out of Gruul too. Actually, they get like really interesting forms of reanimation where they can like recast cards again. That's like it's like a historical effect is what I want to call it. Or you get like just like really aggressive combat oriented stuff that just like. We go ahead and play Haphazard Bombardment here. Go ahead and cast Goldhound. That's the only thing we found. Haphazard Bombardment. We put the aim counters on. We use this for land destruction because they can target land. You can target creatures and stuff too. You just can't target enchantments. But other than that, usually if you see Haphazard Bombardment from me, I'm playing it for land destruction. All right, those two fight each other. We win. Because our guys are big now. They're big kids now. Bard class, find nothing. Do lands. Remember, Sunbird's Invocation, you can't cast or can't play land. So you have to be able to play lands. You can't cast lands. You gotta play them. And then it spins the wheel, pops the land, stays go. There's a way some or Haphazard Bombardment works is you put the aim counters on and you pop permanents from it until you run out of until you hit the last aim counter. Whatever like survives the bombardment, if you will, as the art kind of implies. Finale of Devastation, they cast this for 6. Yeah, it's 6. So, they dig out Kogla here, try and start clearing up some of these artifacts and enchantments, hopefully. They bash our dog. They fight our dog. The dog loses smaller than Kogla. Play E, well, we're thinking, and they just quit. So, good game, opponent, well played. All right. We go ahead and play halfling here. We're up against Shadow and Halfling. We're up against Calyx, Guided by Fate. This is a scummy list. Enchantment. I don't like enchantment lists too much. They're very strong decks. Because enchantment lists, they basically require very specific cards to counter them. We have Calyx come down, he gives himself a 1/1 counter. This card is downright unfair. Calyx, Guided by Fate, is one of the strongest cards in the entirety of Magic, period. Like, that card is uber powerful. Like, that card uber powerful. We go ahead and play Mutating Gearus here on a non-human, because our Delighted Halfling is a halfling. As long as it's not human, you can mutate it. Go ahead and pop Calyx here, because he just popped boatloads of value. Boatloads of cards insane. I might eventually make the decks that time. I gotta craft a lot of the cards because I gotta craft my decks, but this is easily one of the strongest commanders easily the entire game. It's Calyx, Guided by Fate. This card is absolutely mental. This card, like, be prepared if you see this commander that you have like a few turns. You gotta remove him right away. You got a few turns before they accrue boatloads of value and bury you in unlimited advantage because it's an enchantment list. Because we're thinking here what to play. Go ahead. We have to play Great Henge first. And we can start churning through our deck a little bit quicker. We can start churning. Howling Moon, they get 2/2 Wolf. Because Howling Moon reads that, like, if we cast 2 spells, they get a wolf 2 spell. Then you can like target you can target it's either a wolf or a target creature to attack until end of turn during its combat. Howling Moon's a pretty good card, honestly. It's just kind of a decent enchantment. It's one of those like really rapid punishers. You'll see quite a few of those sometimes. A few of those. They go ahead and give the 1/1 counter to the wolf and swing, because our birds are currently in the air as a 1/3, so the wolf would bounce on 3. It's a bird. Yep, and then they give it 2 attack, 2 defense, 2 attack. Target wolf or werewolf gets 2 attack, 2 defense. Gets 2 defense. We go ahead and play Vorinclex Monstrous Raider here. That shuts off Calyx's ability to put 1/1 counters on things. which is a big deal, and we swing in for damn. Anger's is a 4/4, Vorinclex is an 8/8, and our birds are 1/3. So 3. We hit them for 21 damage. The legal age. Or no, 13 damage. Excuse me. 13. Type of age that they play Def Jam Vendetta. Age that they get a
Jam.
Go ahead and play some here. One of them is like Garuk, like Rise, and the other one I can't see.
Other one
I tried bouncing these in 480p. Oh, they quit here, so good game. Well played.
game.
Played.
Alright. This is our software with 18 It's just a really great experience. You're definitely going to come across this or play whatever. Besides that, it really smooth because like it's easily to be because like when they're so strong, they're really strong, but when it's not that bad. Like they have the highest they have a terrible reputation on their cards. They usually would have card except and RADDFEW against Castbox you can't do anything. There's like the champion list can't and artifacts are not even like white. They gotta figure it out. So give me these things are kind of the best. There's another viewer in the game too. The top right here. The broad flash is giving me please play out I'm checking. Black card press she's cool. Her plus one is top 3 cards. You want to one under your hand and the rest of the trigger. You pay 1 more for the her minus. I think it's minus 3. Bonus next nice for 3 trade over greatest power. Her each crash whatever after your system trade over 2 life. And then her movement is basically there's 3 life cards or sacrifice and you do that 6 times for 18 damage. We go ahead and jack off our cards and land and here's on top of land because they're the lands. The proliferating it's being because this is super bad list. We're pretty far on the map here, honestly. But I'm pretty sure it's because I play on like, yeah, Tally is incredible. You can really go into the land casual forward with the game. It's very funny. Which in this but it's not you know, playing things like your or the planes really magic. And you're just trying to because even the cards it's with 4 EVs like that's insane. Like yeah, sure, like orders their stats. But with a lot of stuff like that, it's not really hard. That's part of what makes me so good. Like, your enemy is like incredibly efficient. A far like users that are on death touch like vigilance. Like, yeah, that's neat, honestly. That's part of what makes me pretty good. If I just use like the beginning here in the field card first, he's a build guy, that's basically what he's doing. His last weapon is minus, you might minus the creature attack until the next turn. I don't think they use it as he might have had marker. His minus is like you mill 3 cards if you have more cards. You can draw 2 cards. It's 8 or more cards in the graveyard, draw a card. And then his minus is target player mills 3 times. So if you have spent 5 money, you will fit 15. Now crawling around here, time to play some counter attack the action, and samurai right here. Samurai. I keep time. Zing shot there. Basically, I'm just being happy. I just don't understand it's silly that guy, but I'm playing too. Tali's easy, probably I hate this stuff. It's not exactly the same thing that I hate, so that's why it's called. We're waiting for our moment to either disconnect contract life choices or wondering or not Mommy, why did I not know the guy? I think I played like wrong here. Some. Mommy, Manatee. On the countdown, controller I think that's a team that's some stuff I don't think it's right. He doesn't get it out. They go ahead and but miss this stuff. Right. See any issue. Oh no, we don't lose this one, so yeah, we go.
Alright, this is the Atroxy deck that we went against. We're up against... I can't even read his name because of the filter that I got on. These videos are in 480p. I'm probably not going to do 480p again. I did it because when I full screen the videos on my phone, it cuts off my cards and their cards. And like you can see like half of my avatar. It's just if you wanted to see the cards at the bottom of the screen. I don't know how to fix that yet. I'm going to try and get it fixed. I got to figure out how to fix it. So, they play Goldberry, like something's daughter, river daughter. She's a nymph. She's from Lord of the Rings. She can move counters around, which is actually a pretty cool ability. The only other card that I know can do that's a Merfolk. You can transfer counters between things and like draw cards with it by removing counters. Play Defense of the Heart, which if they play an additional creature, this cracks. So, do they want to roll the dice, man? Dyson. They're playing the 1/1 counters variant of Atraxa. If I play Atraxa, that's probably what I'll end up playing, because I play 1/1 counters, like, anyways. I really like 1/1 counters decks. I think they're pretty sweet. They opt to equip their dude with Defense of the Heart, threatening that, like, look, dude, if you put down another creature, we're gonna have problems. But yeah, you don't really need to read the opponent's name, because they don't matter. They're just the opponent. Okay. Go ahead and play Goldhound here. Remember, he's a treasure dog. Treasure. That's just what you are. Ooh, ooh, oh. Treasure. I have a dog, and he is a treasure, running around the way. Ooh, 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 treasure. He is my dog. I pet his hair. He has a face I like to stare at. They drown an Icor guy. It doesn't give him any counters because it minuses them by 4. Gives him -4, -4. So they technically have no power anymore, so he can't give counters to something he doesn't have power to. Drown an Icor is actually a pretty sweet card. It's a sorcery, but that's it. Those types of black removals are actually really interesting, and they typically end up being pretty good in a lot of their own ways, because they stop a lot of little interactions with cards, such as that with Gruff Triplets. Got a shiny corner paint on our video. They play Bassery Cat here. They're avoiding playing creatures, which is smart because they're underneath Defense of the Heart. Like, Defense of the Heart is absolutely insane. We go ahead and ram through here, getting rid of their Vampire Duelist, because that Duelist card is insanely good. When you put 1/1 counters on him, you can draw a card. It only triggers once per turn, but that can get out of control pretty quickly. Then we got Etali Primal Conqueror coming downtown. This one, I think we get a mega hit here. Yeah, we got burned down the house too. It's a pretty good hit. We make the Devils. Those rascally Devils. And then Norn's Wellspring. Whenever creature you control perishes, scry 1, and you put a counter on it. Put an oil counter on it. And then you can remove oil counters and draw cards. That's what it does. They go ahead and block with our Planeswalker here against our Gruff Triplets. One of our triplets is perished. How could you? We scry away the land. Well, we keep the land because we got an 8-drop in hand, and we got Enraged Forerunners. Which at this position, if we play Enraged Forerunners, we're probably going to close out the game. But yeah, so we're sitting here, waiting. They go ahead and put a counter on their own Bassery Cat. Because that Luxior, it turns Planeswalkers into creatures, is basically what it does. And they can still use their abilities. So they're actually, that card's actually pretty sweet in its own way. It's really good with those Planeswalkers like Bassery Cat that put 1/1 counters on themselves. They go ahead and swing in here. Little they know. Little do they know that we already have lethal in hand anyways, because we're going to play a land, and we're going to play Enraged Forerunners. Now, Enraged Forerunners gives all of our team 2 attack and 2 defense, and it's vigilance and trample. And they just scoop there because we have lethal. Good game.
All right, you've earned my seal of approval. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Those are the links. Good day.